Here's my presentation on the transcendental songs and also the anti-transcendental songs. So first, I think getting a perspective of the time frame can be important. So I talked about the history of American Romanticism because it encapped the primary pieces of literature. So the American Romanticism time period lasted from 1800 to 1855. Many poets at this time were complaining about the industrialization, and they started moving more towards nature. They thought industrializing was bad for both the mental state and the outside well-being of the world. With events like the Louisiana Purchase and the idea of manifest destiny, expansion increased. This brought more attention to the issue at hand. Therefore, poets moved towards individual aspects like beauty and simplicity. In their mind, it was an opportunity to escape the cruelty that they have saw. These poets began to identify themselves separately through different names. Some were fireside poets since they shared their poems collaboratively by the fireplace. Two other major groups also emerged: transcendentalist poets and anti-transcendentalist poets. The transcendentalist poets idealized a simple life, relying on nature and following their footsteps while breaking away from tradition. Anti-transcendentalists were the opposite, focusing on negative aspects, having a pessimistic view on human nature. This romanticism genre also spread to other aspects of intellectual life like politics, thinking, and art. Some inventions that came out of this time period is the bike, revolver, Morse code, propeller, and others, but all helped mankind in some way. So next, let's talk about the influence that it brought to today. In addition to the inventions mentioned previously, I want to focus more on what the literature brought to our generation, because obviously with the technology that influenced us through technology purposes. So the American Revolution can compare to today, even though it originated even 200 years ago. In regard to literature, some people have a dependence on nature and inner peace, while others focus on negative attributes like revenge. The artists who write musical pieces for Disney are transcendentalist pieces of literature, and these can show the beauty of nature and the embracement of freedom. This is similar to like songs from Moana and Pocahontas. Pocahontas. In contrast, some involved in hip hop sometimes mention violent actions, which are considered anti-transcendentalist. Some mention gun violence, robbery, and more criminal activity, although some do not. American Romanticism can expected to influence our future generations in the same manner it influenced ours. The song I chose is Paint with All the Colors of the Wind by Judy Kuhn. This song became more well known in its appearance in Pocahontas, the seventh highest grossing film for Princess Films. So here are the lyrics, and the link is at the bottom right. So then I was wanting to do an analysis on this song. So the perspective of this song is from a young Native American lady named Pocahontas speaking to an American explorer, John Smith. To Smith and the rest of his fellow European explorers, they see the New World simply as a scheme to make business. They focus on the gold mines and silver mines. Pocahontas disregards this materialistic view, but instead promotes how there is life in nature, and not necessarily just with organisms, but rather through the riches and how you can experience joy through even what may not be alive. And she's trying to share this point of view to save herself, because of these explorers, and potentially John Smith from continuing down this materialistic path. So then I decided to analyze two lyrics from this song that show how it relates to transcendentalism. Both these quotes are not necessarily focusing on the individual and paving their own way, but rather on the focus of nature. It explores this idea and holds nature on a pedestal. It is a way for people to enjoy life rather than through modern method of living, through money or through technology. This first quote talks about the beauty of nature. Sometimes, especially nature, not everything is as it seems. Anyone who can see, or at least has a functional occipital lobe, can see nature either straightforwardly or to look for a deeper meaning. This song points more towards the latter. She hopes that people will see nature as its own important life form. People should value nature as we should value each other. One of the elements of transcendentalism is the focus on the divinity of nature. This quote explores this idea this way when she says that every creature, quote, has a life, has a spirit, has a name. The second quote discusses the fruitfulness, no pun intended, and the luxury of nature. When the artist says, "Taste the sun's sweet berries of the earth," she wants people to enjoy what's naturally around them. Additionally, rolling in the riches can imply rolling in the riches of nature. These riches can be beautiful fields with flowers, or maybe something more forested. Regardless of which it may be, they should have little value in their currency aspect. People should not worry about what these riches are worth, but rather enjoy what's around them. Placing natural value over modern value shows the same theme of transcendentalism of showing the divinity of nature as the last one. Some of these literacy connections can also be found from a piece of literature we read in class. I'll start with Nature by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Waldo believes in this essay that wisdom, while it is thought to come with old age in the minds of some, can be accelerated with the embracement of nature. Paradise can be found this way, rather than in the material world. Emerson says, quote, "There I feel that nothing can befall me, no grace, no calamity, which nature cannot repair. This shows how nature can repair or fix all problems with life because it grants wisdom. With wisdom, people can look to wisdom to fix their problems rather than something that money can buy." This reflects Judy Kuhn's song because it talks about the benefits of nature, which most people tend to ignore. Additionally, I Taste a Liquor Never Brewed by Emily Dickinson also recaps the same idea as Kuhn because she talks about getting drunk off nature's goodness. Rather than being physically drunk on alcohol, she says that she's getting drunk off life and the joys that nature brings to them. She wrote, quote, "I taste a liquor never brewed, from tankards scooped in pearl, not all the vats upon the Rhine yield such alcohol." This is similar to the second quote from Kuhn when she says, "To taste the fruits of earth." Both the song in the poem and essay reflect transcendentalism because of their embracement of nature, because it can bring joy, comfort, and wisdom, and all pieces mentioned so far have had a relation through their genres. The next song I chose is okay, this recording is done after, but I have my lyrics and link in there. Unlike the last song, this song has little to no historical significance or references. This song was made by George Thorogood and the Destroyers, and it tells a fictional story of a man. He's very harsh and not particularly a good role model, of course. He scares people, particularly women, and it's also he can flirt with a lady. Currently, this 80s song appears even today in movies and is played prior to the beginning of popular sporting events. Although it reflects anti-transcendentalism, it portrays humor too, through the man's immoral actions. This is Aaron editing, and that's supposed to say anti-transcendental lyrics. So the first quote that I chose in the song reflects anti-transcendentalism. In anti-transcendentalist pieces of literature, some common themes are revenge, murder, limitations, but in this case, anti-transcendentalist characters of the evil of humans is shown. Old women, who are so precious, wise, and beautiful, to some people at least, shouldn't be influenced to partake in theft, which the artist is suggesting that, he's saying that this character influenced them to do so. Instead, these elderly women should do other things, like knit their grandson Patrick a nice blanket for when it gets cold in the winter. Because of this cruel influence on kind-hearted elderly women, it reflects the genre of transcendentalism. The second quote also shows the same characteristics as the first quote, where the first quote talks about the protagonist influencing older ladies to act more recklessly. This quote talks more about his personal life. It shows this person who this person truly is, since the first quote might have been a one-time action. Since he broke over 1,000 hearts, that means that he made 1,000 people, assuming he never dated a jellyfish, very sad and depressed for a span from weeks to months. Additionally, he promises to continue this infliction in the future, because he will break even more hearts. This also reflects the evil parts of mankind. If this man did moral actions, it would not be anti-transcendentalism, but transcendentalism. The man's immoral actions reinforce the idea that this is an anti-transcendentalist song because it is discussing and promoting these deeds of emotionally hurting ladies. This song reflects some of the other anti-transcendentalist works of the American Romanticism era. Edgar Allan Poe's work, The Haunted Palace, shows a similar genre. This tells a story of a great palace and kingdom which ruled magnificently. However, it soon turned to turmoil after the evil, quote, things invaded the city. This reflects Bad to the Bone because it shows how good things can turn bad. Poe wrote, "And round about his home the glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old times entombed. Sorry. The old ladies, mentioned before in the first quote, most likely lived happily as their life slowed to a comfortable pace. However, with the influence and effect of an outside evil source, this outside evil source influenced them and shows how everything can turn sour. This is an anti-transcendentalist theme because it is telling a story of how a good thing turned bad and is promoting, or at least not condemning, this idea. The second piece of literature that I like to mention is The Maldive Shark by Herman Melville. Unlike the last example of how they're similar, Bad to the Bone and Melville's work are opposites. This transcendental poem talks about the benefits of friends and how they should work together. In his poem about symbiotic relationships, Melville says, "The sleek little pilotfish, azure and slim, how alert in attendance be to his saw pit of mouth from his channel of maw. They have nothing of harm or dread." This shows transcendentalism because it talks about people, like the sea creatures, should work together to benefit each other. However, Bad to the Bone talks about bring harm to people emotionally and spreading this mindset to more people. Because this 80s song is an apparent contrast to The Maldive Shark, which is a transcendentalist poem, Bad to the Bone must thus be an anti-transcendentalist piece of music.